Hey, I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTracker.com, and today we're going to break down the K-Tech DDS Lite rear shock install on our 2018 STG Ninja 400 project bike. Okay, you can see that I have the lower fairing off. I've got the motorcycle up on a rear stand. And I also have two jack stands handy to support the bike by the Vortex fixed foot peg rear sets. We're going to begin by loosening the two fasteners for the shock. Access to this it's really pretty wide open here. What I'm going to start with is on the nut side. It's a 14 mil. Just go ahead and get that spinning, then I'll put a backup wrench on it. Also 14. Every bike can be a little different. This one looks like the shock install is going to be relatively easy. Remember, we are not taking the bolt out now. We have to wait until we have bike supported here by the foot pegs before we do that. Now the lower shock bolt. Man, there was not a lot of torque on those. That's actually it's almost concerning. Okay, those are locking nuts from the fastener. Okay, now slide these under. Just support the bike right here on both sides. You may or may not have something like this. There's different ways to do it. You know, this is just, we have the Pitbull jack stands, which are a pretty handy tool. So that's what we'll be using in the video. When you go to raise it up, you see that those are going to tip a little bit until they catch again. So what I like to do too is I'll kind of leave the rear stand right up on the table. We will be using that to get the bolts back in later. Okay, you want to leave the rear stand under the swing arm. So I can put just a little bit of pressure like this. That's going to allow me to get the bolts out. If there's a lot of weight coming down on the fasteners, it's just much more difficult to get the bolts out. Go ahead and lower that rear one. Now the tire is on the table. There are the two bolts. You can see that there are different lengths. The shorter one is on the top. The longer one is on the bottom. Looks pretty wide open. I also removed the factory hugger and chain guard assembly. We've got a lot of room to work with here. And out comes the OEM unit. Okay, this is the KTech DDS Lite rear shock, right? This is homologated for racing here in the US. The Ninja 400 is a big deal in that Moto America Junior Cup. There's more than one option available for the 400. We opted to go with the top tier, which is the DDS Lite. With that said, on our Yamaha R3, we have the Razor RR shock, right? Which is not at this level. And I gotta tell you, that bike also handles like it's on rail. Very happy with the KTech stuff so far. Excited to see what this one handles like. To install the shock, you want to first slide it into position, and we're going to have to put the lower fastener through first because it's contacting the pipe when you raise it up. So we'll go ahead and slide that through like so. Let's get the fastener for the top, and then we'll come back here. Make sure you have the bolt in your hand because we're going to have to feed the bolt through, manipulate the shock so that it's lined up. This is a spot where it'd be nice to have little Max Van here helping his old man, but he's busy in the warehouse shipping packages. So you see just a little bit of coordination, a little patience, you can get that fed right in there. Let's talk torque wrench. This is not a fastener that I personally choose to use a torque wrench on, okay? You may feel different. If you don't feel comfortable tightening anything without using a torque wrench, then I would suggest that you go ahead and get your torque wrench out, research the torque specs. These should be found pretty easily online at this point, considering this is a 2018 model. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to raise this back up and pull the jack stands out. Just going to give us more access to tighten the fasteners. This is only half of the suspension work that we're going to be doing. I also have the KTech fork cartridge kit that we will be installing on this bike. And that is, we did that on the R3, and the install, as I understand it, is pretty much the same. And that was a cool project. That definitely was not your everyday run-of-the-mill project, because you had to machine the bottom of the forks. Letting that lightly rest there on that torque tube body. And okay, that torqued out. I just said fork tube body, that's pretty funny. It's actually a shock reservoir. Okay, make sure I've got that good and even. And we'll come up here, double check this one as well. All right, I like that. Other things to consider. This comes with, and I'll show you this before we button the project up, it's going to come with some literature that's going to give you some suggested settings to open up with, right? And I would really recommend using those. I found those on the R3 to be quite effective. In terms of spring rate, we help you choose that through KTech, okay? When you order the shock, basically we're going to ask you your weight, your riding style, questions like that, and then we work through KTech to help select the spring that we feel is going to be most effective for you and your riding style. The next thing would be the geometry, the actual height of the shock from eye to eye. You need to measure that dead center. This particular shock, as I understand, has a top-off spring in it, so you need a special piece of equipment, a shock stretcher, to accurately set that length. And that's something that will be done before the shock is boxed up and sent to you, right? As it's a little difficult to do that without having the proper tools. I do have an idea that I'm going to try. Actually, what I like to do is I'll use a center punch and I'll make some marks as close to the center of the mounting bolts as possible, and then I have a tape and I'll measure eye to eye like that. What I was wondering is with this top out spring, I don't know how much force it takes to overcome that, so I might just be fishing for something here, but I want to see if we're able to. And this one's already been set at the factory, so I'm not worried about that. They set this at K-Tech for me. It's at the right length. We're using 330. If I support it here by the foot pegs and have somebody push on the swing arm here, I'm wondering if that would be enough to overcome the top-off spring. This isn't something you'd even really need to concern yourself with. It's just something for my own curiosity that I want to satisfy. When we come back, we'll have the lower fairing on and just talk about the rest of the suspension project we've got going on with our Ninja. There you have it. It is a fairly simple, straightforward install, right? Who is this shock right for? Anybody who wants to take the Ninja and turn it into a dedicated track bike, a race bike. This shock is going to meet all of your needs and then some, okay? We have adjustable height, so shock length, adjustable rebound and compression. When you order the stuff from us, we've got a spot where you're going to put in your height, your weight and your riding style. And we're going to help you then with KTech choose the right spring for yourself and your motorcycle. If you need help with geometry, setup, things like that, we can help a little bit there. Please understand that it's difficult. Every track is different. Every rider's habits are different. What I like to do is I like to start off literally right at the baseline KTech suggests with each component. It comes in the literature they include with it. That's when I feed into it, and that's where we start riding and we tune as necessary. And to be honest with you, like for example, Max Fan's little R3, he hasn't overridden those baseline settings yet, and he's riding the bike pretty quick. So KTech does a good job. They put a lot of time and effort into those baseline settings to give a rider somewhere to go. You know, you'll find that their clicker adjustments that they recommend are usually somewhere right in the middle. So you can tighten it up a little bit, you can loosen it up a little bit to help meet your needs. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments section of this video. Suspension is one of those really touchy areas. It's such a rider preference thing, right? I'll do the best I can to help you, but please understand, even if you bought this stuff from us, you installed it yourself because you like to do your own work, don't be afraid to work with a dedicated suspension technician at your local track and invest a little bit in helping them get your bike dialed in for you.